Hey guys, Master here bringing another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so JP tweeted out the details for the TEQ Exchange BUU EZA, which is coming out on both versions of the game tomorrow. Interestingly enough, this was shown in the global news very early on, like at the start of the celebration, basically, when we got the full breakdown of the celebration info, but was not in the JP news straight away, which was kind of weird. They've done this in the past before, but usually the other way around, and it makes it seem like Global is potentially not getting something that JP gets. But for some reason, Global doesn't ever seem to post these EZA details posts, but it came out on the JP side. So this comes out tomorrow, just under 24 hours from now, 9 AM UK time, which I think is what, like 11 PM PST or something like that? Or is PST 9 hours behind me now, or is it still 10? I don't know. But late on the Wednesday night, I guess, for if you're in the US, early in the Thursday morning if you are in the UK or Europe or any sort of similar time zone. So that is starting tomorrow. TEQ Exchange BUU EZA. We haven't had the data download yet, so we don't know what the weakness category is, but we will be finding that out later on today. So I will be making a team building guide for the EZA, which will go up a little bit later on. So shout out to Minato for posting the translations. We are going to check those out, go through those here. I've seen some good things from like rough translations that people have done, so we're just going to jump right in and take a look. So TEQ Exchange BUU's first form is obviously the Fat BUU. The leader skill is Margin Power 4 key and full 170 stats. Artificial Life Forms 3 key and full 170. This is what we've been seeing from these Dokkan Fests that have 2 leader skills. The main one getting 4 key, but the whole thing being a full 170 to all 3 stats, which is a significant buff to some of these characters that had 130 for one of the stats. So decent leader skill. And then the super attack is greatly raise attack for 1 turn, raise defense for 1 turn, does immense damage. And then the passive is key +3, attack and defense 150%, attack 50% when performing a super, 40% damage reduction, just base, straight up gets that all the time. Then reduces damage received by a additional 30% when there is a Margin Power ally attacking in the same turn. So realistically, this is for free, because you're pretty much always going to be running him with at least one other BUU character, right? Just in order to get like a good link partner and stuff, right? So that's basically 70% damage reduction for free, which is pretty good. Then he gets attack and defense 50% when there are no Margin Power category enemies. So that does mean that, depending what the later stages are going to be, he's not going to be at full potential in this new Majin Buu Saga Red Zone, but I mean, some of the stages you don't fight Margin Power enemies in the first stage anyway. And then, of course, we're already fighting Super BUU by the second stage. The later stages could easily be against characters like Majin Vegeta or Vegito. So there could be other stages that are not Margin Power. But it is an extra 50% attack and defense, which is a nice buff. But it doesn't suddenly make him bad for not getting that, right? So that's still going to be very good. And then exchanges with Majin Buu Pure Evil when conditions are met. Remember, of course, that this guy came out as the polar opposite, or the, I guess, the partner, the dual Dokkan Fest equivalent, however you want to say, of the Gotenks. So they are very, very similar. And of course, his exchange condition is literally just the next turn, right? You get 1 turn as the Evil BUU, as Fat BUU, and then he exchanges into the Evil BUU. So this is our boy Evil BUU. Kind of funny that he's TEQ and the new Evil BUU is TEQ, right? So the only 2 like usable sort of forms of Evil BUU in the game are both TEQ, but there you go. So you transform, just like Gotenks becomes Super Saiyan Gotenks on the next turn, BUU becomes Evil BUU on the next turn. And then his super attack is greatly raise attack for 3 turns, raise defense for 3 turns, does immense damage, and seals super attacks. He gets key +3, attack 200% and defense 150%, 70% attack when performing a super. So he has the potential to hit relatively hard, especially with the greatly raise attack for 3 turns as well. And then he has the same thing, 40% damage reduction, 30% when there's a Margin Power ally in the same turn. So basically 70% damage reduction pretty much all the time. Attack and defense 50% when there's no Margin Power enemies. He has a great chance to stun the attacked enemy, and this is part of his passive. So it's a 70% chance to stun, but it will only be for the duration of the turn. Could be good for Super Battle Road or just any of these events that do have phases where you can still stun, but that is pretty good. And then he also has a high chance to dodge, so 50% chance to dodge just built in. So defensive wise, once you become Evil BUU, very, very effective. Like even in events with AoEs, if his start of turn defense isn't even necessarily that high, I'm not sure, I haven't seen the calcs for him post EZA, but he has a 50% chance to dodge, and then if he doesn't dodge, he has 70% damage reduction, as long as you do have a Martian Power ally on the rotation. So that's pretty good. And then obviously post super, he's raising defense for 3 turns, so if he gets some additionals, he's going to have a nice little bit of extra defense as well. And then yeah, that 70% damage reduction or 30% chance to dodge, very, very good. And then of course we have the he will transform into Evil BUU, Super BUU. Super BUU is the exact same thing, right? Activated when HP is 70% or more, starting from the 4th turn after exchange. This is the exact same condition as transforming into Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks. And then once you transform into Super BUU, the super attack is massively raise attack for 3 turns, greatly raise defense for 3 turns, that's really good. Immense damage and seals. He has Ki +4, attack 250% and defense 200%. Attack 100% when performing a super. Damage received by 50%, so it's gone up from 40 to 50. However, he now only gets 20% when there's a Martian Power ally in the same turn. This doesn't really make a huge difference because, like I say, you're probably going to be running him with a Martian Power Saga ally anyway, or Martian Power ally anyway. So it's just 70%, but in a different way, 50 plus 20 instead of 40 plus 30. But it's not really going to make a huge amount of difference, right? It's still going to be 70% almost all the time that you're using him. He doesn't have the extra stats if there's no Martian Power enemy anymore. He does just get 50% attack and chance to crit 25% per rainbow key sphere obtained. So that's kind of interesting because he's not a rainbow orb changer. The Martian Power team doesn't really have a rainbow orb changer, but it's a nice little bit of extra buff. I mean, if you can get a decent orb changer on rotation with him, depending on the team you're running, and you're running, say, him and a BUU character for the extra damage reduction, and then you have a unit in slot 3 that's creating some rainbow orbs. If you get that turn where you get like the 4 rainbows, not only is he getting a bunch of extra attack, but he has guaranteed crit as well. And honestly, even on a turn where you can just pick up 1 orb, 25% chance to crit is the equivalent of having like 12 or 13 crit in the hidden potential. So I would say when it comes to this guy now, post EZA, his hidden potential is probably going to be ideally mostly additional for those super attack effects, and then maybe some dodge, because like Evil BUU doesn't really need dodge because he has 50% dodge in his passive and you have 70% damage reduction. But these super attack effects are really good and they carry over. Like if you're keeping him on main rotation, all these stacks that he gets from the greatly raised attack and then the raised defense, they will still be there on the next turn as long as you're keeping him on rotation. And then when he attacks again, he gets that buff again for the duration of that turn. So he's not going to be a character necessarily that needs a lot of dodge. He's not really a slot 1 unit, and then there are very few events now that do drop AoEs. So I wouldn't build him full dodge solely for the fact that that would be good for him against AoE bosses. But I think additional is definitely going to be very good for him. Obviously, he doesn't have any crit in the base or Evil BUU form. But of course, once you become Super BUU, then obviously that's where you're then going to be able to get a bunch of crit chance, even from getting like minor orbs. So I think for me, like I never gave mine skill orbs. I pulled a bunch of copies from the BUU banner, but I was keeping them rather than having a spare SA5 copy to just see if I needed to change his hidden potential. As a tech unit, he has level 5 crit anyway. So I think honestly, mine's at 15 additional 8 crit 3 dodge. I might change the 3 of the crit just to an extra dodge. So he's got 8 dodge, 5 crit, and then just kind of leave it as that, because the BUU team has a lot of units that can do some solid damage. But this guy I feel like is really going to be there to be a defensive juggernaut until he transforms into Super BUU. And that's when he goes crazy with the damage, kind of like Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks is already, right? So this guy seems very, very good, unlike KEFLA and Gotenks, because people are always going to say now with every new EZA, is he KEFLA level, is he Gotenks level, is he the new best EZA TUR? I think you could probably argue that he is, because the team that you're going to be running him on, or the partners that you're going to be running him with, he's going to have 70% damage reduction. And as crazy as KEFLA and Gotenks are, like, maybe this guy doesn't hit as hard as KEFLA in like the early turns, right? Especially when he's like Evil BUU, for example. Maybe he doesn't hit as hard as KEFLA, but when it comes to the toughest bosses in the game, KEFLA and Gotenks are dodge or die when it comes to super attacks. Whereas this BUU, as Evil BUU, he has 50% chance to dodge anyway, but then as in all of the forms, he has 70% damage reduction. So post super attack, he should be tanking all of these big boss super attacks for significant amounts of like significantly low amounts of damage, right? Like if we take a 3 million super attack and then we take off 70%, right? And then that leaves us with 900k. Post super attack, he's easily going to be getting up to like 500, 600, 700k depending which turn it is, which means he'll be eating a 3 million damage super attack for like as low as 200k, or maybe even lower sometimes, which is super, super good. So in that respect, you could certainly say that he is better than KEFLA or Gotenks, because he doesn't need to dodge big boss super attacks in order for him to survive. So he seems incredibly good. Seems like he could be the new best EZA TUR. We'll obviously have to see. He comes out tomorrow. Like I said, I'll have a team building guide up. I will do the EZA live on stream tomorrow, and then we'll immediately jump into showcasing him. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of the TEQ BUU down below in the comment section. Do you think he's better than KEFLA or Gotenks? Let me know your thoughts down below. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.